Good afternoon and welcome to the JBS Stories of Innovation. I'm your host, Sajida Bandukwala. Today, we'll be talking about the human AI collaboration paradox, and we'll be unlocking the potential of this subject and addressing some of the risks. And to discuss with me this topic, we have Ali bin Shaheen, who has worked in multiple sectors and has a lot of experience in this area. So, welcome, Ali, to this podcast. And please start by telling us a bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Sajda, for having me here. And I'm glad to be the first guest in the Stories of Innovation for JBS. Talking about myself, that's always a tricky thing to do. But a bit about myself has always been around how do I leverage technology to facilitate the advancement of human beings. With that, I can kind of tell about my experience primarily lies somewhere around technology, business, product, and strategy. And my experience ranges from multiple industries. You can say that I've almost been part of 13 different industries and leverage technology within that. Starting with using IoT and smart city innovations to moving into founding my own startup by the name of Rapta, which was a LinkedIn for blue collar workers and finding them jobs and opportunity through technology. Eventually, I moved into consulting on AI products for the retail and fashion sector. And then I joined JBS, where I right now am helping and facilitating organizations use AI and then facilitate the advancement of humankind.
So that's interesting, Ali, because our topic today is about human AI collaboration and the paradox it forms. It's something that we cannot live without right now at workplace or at home. So tell me, how do you relate your experience to this paradox?
Absolutely. So calling it a paradox is somewhat true because you think about AI replacing human beings. But I think about AI essentially facilitating or augmenting human beings. So rather than thinking about man versus machine, we need to think about man and machine. And how do we kind of bring them together to facilitate the journey of how humankind advancement is going to happen? And the way you kind of see it is the reason it can be called a paradox in some way or the other is that as the AI is developed further, human skills are becoming more valuable. And that is a paradox on its own because you feel like, hey, will AI replace me? Not really. It will reshape how you are going to move forward.
And that is the biggest myth that I see right now because a lot of people have this fear, and we'll talk about that in a bit more. But I think I want to start by asking you something that is very, very a huge problem right now in the industry, and that is around the bias and the unfairness that AI might cause. So let's, a lot of people apply for jobs, for example. They put their CV on LinkedIn, it goes through this algorithm, and the algorithm is deciding who they're going to hire. In the good old days, people used to just look at CVs and they used to just decide, look at people's skills. And that's not happening anymore. And that in itself is a problem for people with skills and talent. And just maybe they don't have those skills on their CV or they haven't put it in the right way with the right keywords. So, and this sort of problem runs across multiple industries and because of the way we're training AI models. So what do you think about this bias and unfairness?
So as you said, that training of the AI model, that is a very important aspect because training is being done by human beings. So we sometimes feel that bias is mirroring the data that is, being input into the AI. But we forget who is collecting that data, which perspectives are being followed. For example, if you and I, we have a certain bias for a certain community or a certain stance that would reflect into the AI. So that biasness aspect primarily depends upon how you design the whole AI solution, how you collect data, how that data is cleared, how that data is transparent. And one way or the other is that you bring in people with diverse background, you bring in diverse perspective, and you create somewhat of a bias framework that flags any of these issues. For example, you talked about the hiring bit. This was something that happened in Amazon. And what Amazon did, they looked at the last 10 years of data of different CVs and different positions and how those positions were essentially hired. So AI learned that exact thing. And what it started doing was anything which would say women or which would say African American English, any CV which would have those components, they would be given less prestigious jobs. So, which meant that even though the data was available, the approach was available, but what Amazon did not address was the transparency aspect, the cleaning of biasness. So, these things are very necessary when you're designing any AI solution.
But as audiences or as people who are users of AI, how do they actually recognize, or how do they know that there is bias or there is no bias? And so how do companies actually ensure that they put that quality? Are there any sort of set rules that define that there is bias or there is no bias?
So bias is only felt by those who are experiencing it. The ostracized community, if somebody is not getting an opportunity because AI said so. So as somebody who is somewhat privileged, they might not experience it. But somebody who is not, who has always been put aside in the human context as well, will experience that. So only those users will see biasness. As companies, what we need to kind of build in is ethical AI needs to be built into this. We need to look at how do we make our data models accountable. Before putting it into the real world, we need to test it out to ensure that none of these biasness are formed by the AI when it is being presented in the real world scenario. So you can primarily look at, for example, the recruitment bit. You can build an AI agent that can flag any of these biases that, for example, if there's a tilt towards a certain ethnicity or a certain race or a certain segment, then this needs to be flagged, and humans need to then be part of this loop to ensure that it doesn't happen again. This flagging aspect, these checks need to be built into the system as well.
I think the next thing I want to move on to is skills.
Yeah.
This is a huge problem, and there are a lot of people who are currently fearing that they're going to lose their jobs. This is the sort of the common hot topic in the AI world, that we won't need humans anymore. And we know that's not true, okay? Because whatever the AI is doing, it is actually being done by humans, and that's how they're training it. But in your view, what do you think should be the skills that people need to keep themselves updated with to keep evolving in this ever-changing world of AI right now?
Absolutely. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about replacing human beings as much as it's about reshaping human beings. The Industrial Revolution came. It advanced people and it reshaped how we do a certain job. In that same way, with this whole AI revolution that is coming up, we need to start thinking about how we need to reshape our jobs, what kind of skills we need to be upskilled with. Because AI cannot function without human beings, because we essentially, at this stage, AI is a tool, AI is your buddy. It shouldn't be something that you should be afraid of. And a lot of fear comes from not having the right skill set, as you rightly mentioned. Some of the skill sets that I believe should be, one is having technical adaptability, understanding how much an AI can give me in terms of the output. So how you write or instruct AI, prompt engineering is one thing that I feel everybody needs to learn. Because prompt engineering essentially tells you what kind of instructions that need to be given to an AI to give a certain answer. And then the second aspect is contextual engineering. Because giving instructions is not enough. You also want to tell how a certain human being thinks, what different context it puts into when they're looking for an answer. If you build these two aspects into yourself, then the result of AI will become better. So that is from a technical adaptability perspective, and this goes across the field. I don't want to go into whether you need to learn coding or you need to know LLMs. No, these are two hard skills that are adaptable and easy to adopt for human beings.
Yeah.
Then comes the second aspect is, since now you know that AI will give you a certain output, we need to now start improving our own human skills. How do we make decisions? How do we put in emotional intelligence? We ensure that our creativity is not hampered. So we use AI as a data set through which we create better decisions or make better outputs. So that is how I kind of see the skills that need to be developed.
Yeah. And what is your view? Because I'm from the Gen X world, and there are a lot of people from even from my age or before me who have had to adopt AI and work, whereas the Gen Zs and millennials were practically sort of born in the digital world, and for them it's been much easier. Um, but we're all living in that harmony and working together. And of course, people who've got no clue about digital skills, social media, and then having to adapt to AI. What do you think about these sort of varying generations and their ability to adapt to AI?
So I kind of see it like this, that being born into technology has its merit, but also demerits, because you think that this is it. You do not know the context behind things. You rely too much on the technology rather than your own cognitive abilities. What have been happening is, ever since the whole chat GPT revolution, or all these LLMs have come about, people have stopped thinking, and they started to rely too much on AI. For example, what I can learn from you essentially is the fact that, okay, if a certain output in AI is giving, how do I now take a decision on it? That is where I see that the newer generation is struggling, because they never experienced that. So using AI as something that will give you information, but how you act on that information is very important. You can't make it your psychologist or your decision maker. It's an analyst. An analyst will analyze what is available. A decision maker will decide based on all the external factors that are not available. So these things are very necessary. So the newer generation needs to be able to, it needs to go hand in hand, where the newer generation must learn, how do I make my AI a better analyst for me? And the Gen X needs to understand, how do I essentially teach these people on how to make a decision based on the better output that I'm getting, that they were not getting before.
Yeah.
In terms of the data.
Yeah. Ali, can you give us some practical examples at work and how workflows are changing because of AI? And we've talked about skills, but in the real world, how is it changing?
So one real life example can be of JBS itself. What we would see on our website is that people would come to it, and it would take them a lot of time to find a certain information. They would have to go through the 400 pages that we have. It's a big company, we have a lot of departments, and eventually we would lose out on potential customers or potential lead that could become a customer. So to handle that, we created ACE, an autonomous conversational experience, a chatbot that was integrated onto the website. It would talk to people. They would come to the website, they would ask specific question that they want about the company, and ACE would capture the lead, the name, number, email, and redirect all of that lead to the relevant department. So that kind of really helped us in terms of improving our current workflow of how lead is being collected through the site, and also improve the user's experience with us. So I see that as one of the examples of many that are happening in the world.
Okay, thanks for that. Ali, I'm going to move on to a very hot topic now, which is also very critical for most people using AI, and that's about transparency and explainability of AI. And it's very, very important in decision making, so that people can develop trust in the decision making of AI. So, firstly, can you explain what explainable AI is to our audiences? And then let's talk about that a bit more then.
I think that's an interesting question. Trust is a core foundation when it comes to AI. And explainable AI kind of helps in building that trust, because it tells you why a certain thing did not happen. For example, you applied for a loan and then you were not able to secure it. It should then be able to explain it might be because of insufficient income history, insufficient engagement with the bank. So these are important factors. If you know, then you will trust the AI more, because rather than AI saying you can't do a certain thing, it tells you why you can't do a certain thing.
Yeah.
So that explanation of why in a decision is what explainable AI is.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. Like I talked about hiring in the beginning, and it's so important that people know instead of just getting your random email that sorry you've not been selected, and that I know has impacted a lot of people. So I think explainable AI is very very important. So what role do you see explainable AI playing in regulated industries, whether it's finance or healthcare, etc.?
So, finance, healthcare, these industries are highly regulated because they're dealing with sensitive information. And the decisions would essentially change outcome for multiple stakeholders. So, the way that explainable AI can ensure that it is useful is by telling why a certain decision happened. So, that brings in the transparency aspect. Any AI governance or strategy would fail because AI is not a sprint. Essentially, you need to see it as a marathon, and that marathon needs to be prepared for. It can't just be, hey, let's just do AI strategy today, and this is how a governance is going to be. You need to be very critical for everything that you try to do, be it how you train your employees for AI, be it how you develop a certain solution, or be it how you develop your governance strategy.
So, if an organization who's very relatively new in this field and wants to now transform into AI, of course, one of the things that they really need to consider about is risk management. So, what would your suggestion be to these organizations? How should they approach it? How should they approach the governance? How should they approach the risk management? And also, how should they approach the compliance? And which is very, very important that they do that to make themselves AI ready.
So, for new companies, I would suggest that you need to embed the AI governance at the design stage rather than as an afterthought. You need to kind of see, okay, what are the important factors that I have? I look at, is my data ready? Number two, are my people ready? Number three, the AI solution that I want to make is relevant to my industry. It cannot be something which is, oh, this is looking like a flashy thing. It needs to be relevant to your industry. Only then the adaptation will make sense. So any company that wants to today look at AI strategy needs to look at how the solutioning is done, how the streamlining is done in terms of their workflows, and how do they upskill their people. And that is very important when it comes to designing your own AI governance and framework.
So, yes, I totally agree, Ali. I think your strategic pillars have to be right if you want a very strong AI driven organization. So, what do you think is going to happen in the future? How do you think humans and AI are going to evolve? Are they going to be each other's friends or are they going to be enemies? How do you think it's going to evolve?
So I saw this really funny post the other day where this person was saying, I wanted AI to do my laundry, and me, I wanted to do art. But now AI is doing art and I'm doing laundry. So people have this perception of the utilization of AI. Is it beneficial for me or not? Is it going to take over my industry? So that kind of got me thinking on really which are some of the industries which would be most affected by AI. The customer service industry, the media industry. So AI will become like a co-creator for you. It will develop presentations, which you are seeing now. It will develop movies. Even recently, we just saw that Hollywood is fighting against an AI actor. So you kind of see that how AI is now looking to disrupt the media industry. Your animation industry is going to be disrupted massively because, okay, probably you don't want to replace human beings, but you can replace how animation is being done. So that is also one thing that I feel is going to be very critical when it comes to the media industry. Then when you look at level one jobs, which are repetitive, they are going to be replaced. Every level one job in any generation has been replaced by technology.
But I want to look at it more positively. I think the future should be more about the collaboration. I think that how do humans and AI work together? For example, in the health industry, I think there's been so much work that's been done in terms of diagnosis, and I think Chat GPT can do a better diagnosis than a lot of doctors can. So, how do you think what industries can they work together and create something better that is beneficial for humankind rather than that sort of animosity that's going on between AI and humans?
I think even my next comment is going to sound a little negative, where I saw this post again.
This
There are a lot of posts of AI that come to me.
correct.
And in that, ChatGPT is like a robot, and the person is like, "Hey, you took out the wrong liver," and oh, sorry, the wrong kidney. And ChatGPT is like, "Oh, sorry, let me try again next time." So, so you also have to be very careful about how are you using that technology. So, but in that same way, the good aspect is that ignoring the ChatGPT aspect, you can build AI solutions tailored towards certain industries. For example, recently AI is being used to detect cancer, early stages of cancer. It looks at data, terabytes and petabytes of data, and then it is trained on that, and it is giving early detection today. That is allowing doctors to be able to do like a pre-ambit approach rather than an early strike preemptive approach, as opposed to something that will happen like an afterthought. Oh, no, this person has cancer now. So I do see that collaboration happening today. And also what we have to kind of understand, and a lot of people are like, hey, AI is like a magic box. It should be giving me answers today. AI is right now in its modern stage. It has not reached its wildest stage because it's the early era of AI. 10 years later, still in this industry, it's going to transform every single thing out there. And for that, as human beings, we need to start adapting. We need to start reshaping how we approach AI, and not in a negative way. That will actually help you increase your worth of the value in in an era of technology.
Ali, so you think that this is the start of AI?
Yeah.
All right, but it's something that has happened so fast that people haven't been able to catch up. That's how quickly it's growing. And in Pakistan, of course, the adoption has been much slower, but you travel to the West or some other parts of the world, and it's way, way ahead. And you think back, and ChatGPT 2 years ago possibly was not even known to a lot of people. With 2 years of ChatGPT and other AI tools making such a big difference, what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years now?
Absolutely. As I told you that, the modern example.
Yeah.
But we have to kind of see that AI has been there for the last 10 to 20 years, be it in terms of computer vision solutions, be it in terms of predictive analysis. Right now, it has just become a mass product through ChatGPT.
Yeah.
AI has been there for the longest time. It was not getting its due share of respect, or, because it was not being used by the masses. AI has been utilized in cyber crimes, for defense. It used to be that royal thing that the aristocrats would only have, but now it's open to everyone. So in terms of AI being new, I wouldn't say that. I would rather say now the distribution has happened in a much more mass manner, and globally it is accepted.
Yeah.
And that fear kind of remains. Okay, whether, will it take my job or not? I would say no, it would augment it. So in that same way, the next 5 years is going to be about how is AI augmenting a certain job that you have that will allow you to be creative, that will allow you to spend more times not on redundant tasks or repetitive tasks, but rather bigger tasks. If all of that backlog is taken care by AI, then I just need to focus on doing things.
Yeah.
And making decisions. Let AI do the menial tasks.
Yeah.
So the next 5 years can be around voice-based AI interfaces. For example, Jarvis in Iron Man, that will become a reality. Her in the movie of Joaquin Phoenix. People are even moving towards finding lovers. Such. They're confiding to ChatGPT. Probably that might evolve, and the whole love industry kind of might move towards that.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things that can happen through AI. But at this stage, it is right now, I would say, AI is still learning.
Yeah.
It is learning what we have.
Yeah.
It will now, over the next 5 years, learn how we think. Right
Yeah.
now, it just has information,
Yeah.
but the context, when you give that context, even today I was reading this that Meta's chief engineer is not focusing on LLM as much as they are focusing on how LLM will think like a human being. And that is a very scary and an interesting thought, because that is a move which is going to move towards super intelligence. Will AI start thinking for itself? Uh, and if it does, how do we kind of ensure that the regulation and the frameworks are in place? So it's going to be a very interesting and scary world in the next 5 years. We don't know. But I know for a fact that it will really accelerate the human potential, which has not been accelerated by any technology in the past.
I think we've seen a lot of movies where we've seen technology go berserk,
Yeah.
and taking over, and not having good consequences at the end of it.
I would say you're right, but the reason for that is that in the human AI collaboration, you have to make sure which humans are championing. If you see that the team that was behind ChatGPT or OpenAI, the CTO essentially, Mira Murati, I think that's the name. She developed her own company, which is focusing on ensuring the ethical use of AI, so that it doesn't essentially take over. That is also one of the things where Elon Musk wants to focus on. That hey, uh, OpenAI was supposed to be an NGO or a non-profit, not focusing on commercialization. So we are now also seeing that a lot of companies are being formed to ensure that something of this sort doesn't happen in the future. These regulations are going to come up. It is the next big thing. So we will see ethical AI, we will see responsible AI playing a big part in ensuring that human civilization is not doomed.
So, Ali, you literally touched upon my next question, because I now see all of these companies coming up, and something AI, another thing AI, and they're all small. They've joined this group of lots and lots of companies that want to be part of AI, but then they're also competing against some big giants. And do you think these companies can survive, or working against the likes of Google or Microsoft, or any of the big names?
Yeah. So one thing that I've been reading upon is what are the challenges of the bigger companies right now. So right now, one of the big challenges, the use of computational power, is massive. The current computational power is making big companies lose billions, and that is where the smaller companies can make a win, because rather than focusing on generalized approaches, which ChatGPT or Claude or any of these different LLMs are bringing in, you focus on small language models or medium language models, and you train them for specific tasks. So companies that have proprietary data that can turn into a very niche centered solution, it can really change things. Another thing that what I've seen is that AI right now, if you talk from the technological aspect, it has somewhat disrupted design. It has disrupted development, coding essentially. What it needs to now focus on is how does it disrupt the whole distribution aspect? Because all these small companies, what they are lacking is that they do not have access. Bigger companies have access, but then they suffer from losses. Then they suffer from just this whole computational power that is being utilized, and that is also somewhat affecting the environment. So how does a smaller company kind of survive? Is to focus on a niche which cannot be replicated easily by a bigger company. Recently, what happened is ChatGPT or OpenAI kind of brought in the agent kit, and they said that half of Y Combinator startups are going to die because those Y Combinator startups were focusing on specific niche. I feel that is not true, because those niche, for example, ChatGPT's agent kit will be very specific to a certain company, while Y Combinator or any of these different agent startups are specific for a certain industry, and that is how that they will survive. Focus on building your niche and growing it. That is how I feel they can compete, if not with the big companies, but at least for the market share.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And good luck to them.
Yeah.
And with that, I'd like to thank you for being with us today. And looking at how quickly everything is evolving. I hope we can sit down again very soon and talk about new things in the world of AI. So thank you for your time and thank you for being here with us today. And we hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.